Well, good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour à tous. Ici Jean-François Champagne. I'm the president of AIA Canada. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar. We're going to have up to 45 minutes allowed for today's presentation. I'm not sure if we're going to use all of that time. I want to give you a brief updates, but for sure, this is going to be a sort of a webinar format. And so because we have a lot of attendees today, I wanted to make sure everyone could hear us properly. We're not going to be able to have live questions, but we encourage you to send those questions through the webinar chat line. So if you want to ask a question, please do so. If you're on the phone and don't have access to the Zoom application, I would encourage you to email your question at GR for Government Relations, gr@aiacanada.com. Alors encore une fois, aujourd'hui, le webinaire va durer environ 45 minutes, peut-être un peu moins. À cause du grand nombre de personnes qui participent aujourd'hui, il n'est pas possible de poser des questions directement. On vous encourage à envoyer ces questions-là à travers le chat room du webinaire ou encore de les envoyer par courriel, si vous êtes au téléphone, à gr ou jr@aiacanada.com. Alors, encore une fois, merci beaucoup de participer à cette rencontre aujourd'hui. It's a great pleasure to have you all here. And before we get started, I'd like to point out that we are also all going to be sorry about that. We're going to be recording today's presentation. And so if you aren't able to stay for the entire duration, or some of your coworkers wanted to listen to this, they can be able to have access to that recording at a later time. I want to start by just acknowledging that AIA is up and running. I'd like to report that all of AIA staff is safe and well. We have the technology, we have the infrastructure, and so the 25 plus people that are working hard at AIA are all basically working from home. Our offices have been closed since last Tuesday, and we're effectively working for members remotely from the comfort and the safety of our homes. I can only start by saying those are different times. Those are challenging times for sure, and something that for all of us has been something that we've never seen in our lifetime. But also, it's also a great time for us as type of leaders to play an important role that balances our responsibility to protect our staff, our employees, our customers, and also to play an important role in ensuring that our customers and the essential services that we support and service continues to be able to operate in those times of crisis. I've reached out to a lot of you in recent history, and what I could tell you is I've heard many stories of the great services that industries are providing. We're keeping doctors and nurses able to drive safely to the nearest hospital where they work at. We are providing essential services to RCMP detachments that relies on our services to keep their vehicle on the road. Vous savez, la Sûreté du Québec, dans certaines régions, a besoin de nos services puisque c'est avec nous qu'elle continue de faire l'entretien de leurs véhicules pour les premiers répondants. Ambulances, cities, municipalities are all relying on our services to ensure they're able to have their vehicle able to deliver services, product, food, medicine to the population. And that gives us the frame of the conversation we want to have today about what we have been doing at AIA in order to ensure that governments, municipalities continue to understand the essential services that we provide to the population. So what have we done so far? Well, first off, we definitely have connected with our sister association locally and abroad. Ensuring that we're staying connected with what's happening in Canada and around the world. And those include the likes of sister association like Auto Care in the US, who has been working closely with the US government. It's been connected with European Association, also connected with the various governments such as Italy that give us information about what's happening in their own country. It's working with provincial associations as well, in ensuring that they understand what we're doing, collaborate on key messages, and ensuring we're conveying a very a unified message to the various governments. What has come out of that are essentially key messages that we've sent to our constituents, our government relations agencies, and our partners about the essential nature of our services. We've been working with a SUMA strategy, so you should know that AIA Canada is involved with a GR firm that works closely with us and advise us on the best course of action in working with government. And they early on conveyed and communicated to us the messages that needs to be heard about the essential nature of our industry. And we've had very good, I would call it success, in finding good examples around the world where in fact our services are deemed essential. So let me start with our good friends in the US, AutoCare, who have been able to get a position statement very similar to ours that has been recognized by Homeland Security that has deemed auto repair services as essential to the community. There's another great example that occurred early on in the city of San Francisco. Their ordinance of shelter in place specifically highlighted gas station, auto repair, and related services to stay open as an essential service to support the community. We've had good examples as well out of Europe, where our friends in Italy tells us that, yes, auto service repair are providing essential services to ensuring that first responder are able to continue to provide the services they need. So great examples so far. What we've heard also is some of the provinces in Quebec, in Canada, I'm sorry, the province of PEI, Prince Edward Island, as well as New Brunswick, have come out with position statement highlighting the need to limit non-essential services, but have also highlighted that essential services should include auto repair and related services as well. So again, we understand that there are many municipalities, communities, state, countries, provinces, and municipalities that are very clear about telling us we need to stay open and provide those frontline services to the community. However, I need to acknowledge that there has also been conflicting messages that have come out from those same bodies. First point in case was recently on Friday, the region of Peel, that includes the city of Mississauga, Brampton, and Caledon, who in their message to, or reinforced message to close non-essential businesses, identified car repair centers as non-essential. So we've been in contact with the city of Peel or the region of Peel over the weekend, explaining to them what we've been telling the federal government and the guidelines we've heard from other governments. They've been very responsive, and they have been very understanding that they need to balance the safety of the people and the need to support critical infrastructure. And so we're expecting changes to their position statement and updates to their website. And they've made a verbal commitment to adjust a bit their positions to recognize that in fact their sector, in cases like this, needs to continue to provide essential services. But I know you're all here today because the latest, and it's very dynamic and it changes by the minute, came from the province of Quebec and the province of Ontario, who both have mandated the closing of all non-essential services, businesses, essentially within the next 24 hours. So what we've heard about that. I'll start with Ontario, which we've been in contact constantly. And what I can tell you today as of 4:09 this afternoon is that the government of Ontario has said we will require to close all non-essential services, and the list of those non-essential services will be made available very shortly. We're hearing about tomorrow morning will be that list. What I can tell you today is that the likelihood of that list being inclusive of the aftermarket is good. We're most likely going to hear, I'm very confident, from the government of Ontario that some aspect of the aftermarket are deemed to be essential and needs to continue to do business. I know we heard a few minutes ago, Mayor Tory specifically says he didn't believe that car dealership should remain open. And again, this is where we have to have distinctions about essential services, automotive aftermarket services, and dealership. And I'm getting another message here as we speak. What we need to do is to understand as an industry that we have a critical role to play, again, to protect our employees, our customers, but also maintain those essential services. And in many cases, what I've heard is great story from the aftermarket, taking extra step to ensure consumers bringing a car for essential repair are not getting into a repair center. I've heard some of you closing non-essential aspect of your businesses and some aspect of retail, only maintaining critical services to professional in the automotive aftermarket. And I think those are important steps to make. We believe that parts distribution is an essential part of enabling repairers to continue to fix cars, first, frontline services and all the likes, but that the retail aspect of those businesses are probably not deemed essential. And I think we need to act on the side of caution when we're thinking about retail aspect of our businesses. But again, critical to our business is the fact of providing those support for the one who are fixing cars, vehicles, trucks, delivery vehicle that are essential to the population at this point. In fact, and I'll read it, while the automotive aftermarket is considered an essential service, all businesses need to exercise good judgment, leadership, and diligent compliance to health and safety guidelines designed to minimize the spread of the virus. As per normal business management standards, all business owners are responsible for providing a workplace that is safe for employees and their customers. I think this is something that we need to be conscious of and being prudent in our actions moving forward. We have deployed on our website, a page dedicated to COVID-19. I strongly encourage you to visit that page. It references essentially all of the key government websites that are providing guidance. I believe that we need to, again, be cautious, relate onto and connect with all of these official websites that are providing guidance and also allow for compliance. So what are we doing in the meantime? In the meantime, we're continuing to collect information from all stakeholders about the importance and the essential natures of our business. I want you to connect with us, our website, and us directly. And you could use, again, the gr@aiacanada.com website email address, or communications@aiacanada.com, and that email address will be linked to the Zoom recording to communicate with us. Good example where you are providing critical aspect of your business to first responders. We're also working with our GR firm, Summa Strategies, to send out a one-pager that will clearly outline our positions about the essential nature of our business, while being very conscious of doing all the efforts needed to fight the virus and provide a safe environment for our customers and our staff. I'm going to pause here 1 second and see if we are able to entertain any questions that people might have at this point from the webinar through our web pages. So again, I'm hearing again the question relates to what's happening in Ontario and Quebec. Alors, la question est, quand est-ce qu'on va vraiment savoir exactement si nos entreprises doivent fermer ou pas? So the first question is, are we going to be required to close our businesses or not in Quebec related to the announcement today? So again, in the province of Quebec, the announcement came out today to have non-essential services close. What we have heard so far is that through the list provided by the government, automotive aftermarket is neither included or excluded from essential services. And we have to wait for an official list from the government to be released to give us clear guidelines about what that is. We are obviously communicating with the government. We are supporting letters and communications to ensure that they will be aware of our position. So again, we believe that the positions of the government will follow some guidelines that we've seen in other places. We've already talked about Homeland Security in the US. There's been a lot of rumors about the government of Quebec also following the guidelines that they've had from the state of New York. And you should know in the state of New York, there is also specific provisions that are talking about auto repair services and related businesses to be part of that core group of essential services. So we're really hopeful that the province of Quebec will also support specific verbiage that supports the automotive aftermarket. But I guess to answer the question, we don't know yet. At this point in time, it is uncertain. And as of 4:16 or 4:02 earlier today, we're still waiting for a clarification from the government of Quebec. Alors, encore une fois, au début de l'heure, vers 4 heures, elle n'était pas encore clair lorsque le gouvernement du Québec exactement va donner une liste complète des services qui sont essentiels. Ils ont par contre identifié l'État de New York comme étant une possibilité là, de type de recommandations qu'ils vont suivre. Et encore une fois, dans l'État de New York, il y a effectivement des provisions qui disent que l'entretien et réparation de véhicules est considéré comme étant un service essentiel. Mais encore une fois, on se doit d'être prudent, d'offrir effectivement ce type de service-là de façon essentielle, peut-être de limiter nos heures d'ouverture, de limiter la vente au détail et de se concentrer sur le service à nos techniciens, à nos ateliers qui fournissent des services professionnels, spécifiquement au niveau là, de la distribution là, des pièces de remplacement, c'est certain. I'm going to see if we have more questions from the poll at this point. Good. I was hoping at this point that we would get also updates from our GR firm. So I'm going to put you on hold for one quick second as we connect with Joanne and allow her to give us a bit of an update from Alors, pendant que nous attendons la communication avec Joanne, while we're waiting for Joanne to join us, the another question is that, so if there isn't a specific exclusion that comes out from the Quebec government, we may have to close our business. So, la question, encore une fois, est de savoir, est-ce qu'on doit fermer nos entreprises s'il n'y a pas de clarification qui vient exclure l'après-marché? Effectivement, au moment qu'on se parle, si le gouvernement ne donne pas une exclusion spécifique pour le domaine de l'automobile, donc les règles du gouvernement du Québec vont s'appliquer et on devrait à ce moment-là fermer nos entreprises au moment qu'on se parle, là, encore une fois, à 4 heures. Je vois s'il y a d'autres questions, encore une fois, qui nous sont envoyées. So the other question I'm getting is that, is there some precedent that had been set in the US specifically that we could be using to support a position on essential services? Yes, for sure that we have seen a lot of position statement in the US. Again, Homeland Security is one of them that have outlined the automotive aftermarket and some related services to be part of essential services. So again, great series of good support that we received from some of the US in regards of that for sure. So I'm going to 613 35 61. So I now have, I believe, Joanne Dobson with the SUMA Strategy. Susan, Joanne, can you hear us?
Great, I can. And can everybody hear me, or can you hear me, Jeff?
Yeah, people can hear you. Go ahead.
Excellent, great. Well, I think you covered most of kind of what we've been doing over the last week. But what I will say from a higher level government relations standpoint, from a federal standpoint, the minister that's been taking the lead as it relates to small business is Mary Ng, and just as of 2 weeks ago, I guess it would have been, we had JF and a few of the board members in town and actually meeting with the Office of the Minister of Small Business. So I just want to reiterate kind of the importance of government relations from that standpoint, because building relationships in advance and then getting into a situation such as this, which no one ever thought we'd be in, but even a situation where you need to do outreach, having built something of a relationship going in without a specific high level ask as we are right now really paves the way, for the ability for kind of that automatic outreach. And I think, obviously on the federal level, unless they implement what they call the Emergencies Act and kind of trying to tell everybody to not leave their houses, closing everything down, we're really at this point, monitoring what's going on federally, but really, doing outreach on the provincial level. So, JF, you've touched on kind of what we've been doing provincially, but I'll just kind of take you through a few of the steps. After the Region of Peel, recommended that the shops close down, we were right on the phone with the Premier's office, the Office of the Solicitor General, Associate Minister for Small Business, and really, kind of laid the groundwork and the explanation around why the aftermarket industry in its entirety should stay open. And so, it gave us the ability to kind of get in there at the outset because, as we've seen, if a bylaw is changed or if a directive is given and heard, it's very difficult to kind of come in and change it at the back end. So, we were able to get in there from an Ontario standpoint at the outset, as I had mentioned. And as JF had said, the Premier announced today that the province is closing all non-essential business. And, as he said, tonight, Cabinet is meeting and they are going to be putting that list together. And, it's obviously put a bit of the, fear of God in people, because to announce that and not explain who and what is difficult, because you want to see it all at the same time so you can plan both as an individual citizen, but also as a business owner. So I'm sure that under these circumstances, not everything's being thought out in a way that it should. But what I will say is that in outreach we've had with the Premier's office, as of earlier today, they said that, we're in good stead and they're going to take a balanced approach. So, but again, when things go to Cabinet, things change. So I don't want to, we're trying to be a bit cautious when we tell you that, but I, like JF, have a good feeling that things are going to work, in the way of the industry, and they do understand that you are an essential service. So what we're doing just going forward, sorry, JF, if I'm taking up too much airtime here, but is, reaching out to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, reaching out to the various provincial municipal associations, because at the end of the day, even if the provinces deem the aftermarket is essential, municipalities have the ability to not follow suit. And so this is why the message around harmonization is very important. So I'll leave it at that, but just to say that I think what's important is that everybody's speaking from the same voice. We will send around, I believe, JF, the one pager that we put together that we'll be sending to all levels of government, so that we can ensure that we just all know that we're doing the same and that we're not breaking the rules depending on which area you're operating in across Canada. So I hope that provides a good explanation, JF. And of course, everything's fluid going forward, and we'll continue to work with the great staff at AIA to provide you with the most updated information as it comes in.
Joanne, thank you very much for your update. Again, Joanne Dobson, which is working with the SUMA Strategies which is the GR firm that has been working with AIA for quite some time now. And thank you again for joining us on a short notice, Joanne. Maybe before I let you go, there's one question, and I think I have the answer, but I'll let you chime in here. Somebody's asking if there's any chance that AIA may receive that essential list from Ontario tomorrow in advance of its public release. And I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get that, Joanne. What's your take on this?
We could potentially get it, moments before. I don't think it would be. I think it's essentially under our cabinet confidence up until a certain point. But things do get leaked, as we've probably all seen. So we would do our best to, if there's a way to get it, we will, and we'll get it to JF right away. Because I know that, you do want to prepare from your standpoint, but, I would think just prepare for it going either way. And depending on where you are in the supply chain, as JF mentioned, it may have to be a shutdown of the retail side, but, ongoing on the commercial side. And then, of course, what you would do if they indicated that it has to be by appointment, basis. So, but anything we do get in advance, we'll try and get it to you as soon as possible. And that's the same for any province or municipality across Canada.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Joanne. I could only say one thing. The level of engagement we've seen from AIA members in the last week has been tremendous. We've asked for information. You've come through. Every piece of information will be communicated to the membership at large for sure. And as soon as we get clarifications on the specific Quebec and Ontario, we're definitely going to do so. And we hope to get information a bit in advance. But again, to Joanne's point, it may be very fluid. And so I know we're living in time of uncertainty. And for us, the aftermarket, really this next 12 hours, it will really be very uncertain for the two largest provinces. We've received another question in regards to what's going on in Nova Scotia. PEI in New Brunswick have been fairly clear. There's a bit of uncertainty about Nova Scotia as well, where obviously gas stations have been open, but not repair center hasn't been clear. So we're also going to do some outreach there to really get some clarifications around our positions to ensure that auto repair service and related businesses remain open as well. So another question came in about
JF, I'll also say if any of the members who are on the phone right now have a relationship with their members of parliament, their members of provincial parliament, and I know AIA has done a great job in sending, a number of months ago, a big kind of grassroots lobbying kit, but look back to some of that information, because, if you do have a personal relationship, which I'm sure many of you do, give them a call, explain it to them, because that is one of the most effective things is if the premier is getting a call from one of his caucus members saying, listen, this is real, this is important, and it hasn't, it just reinforces the message. And so I would just give you that advice, capitalize on that right now, because I think it's one of the most important times.
Great, thank you, Joanne. Another question came through, which basically talks about the suppliers. What do we do in our suppliers, being manufacturers of hard part, fluid, and so on? And the short answer is we have been in touch with many of our suppliers, manufacturers are also a member of AIA. Obviously, keeping them abreast, involved, and engaged in those conversations as well. So we are speaking to service providers, we're speaking to wholesalers, warehouse distributors, the collision sector, as well as all the suppliers as well. Question dernière, donc I'm going to be looking at one last question, which is, prévoyez-vous un appel conférence demain pour la position officielle? So there's a question about if we could get another follow-up conference call to update the membership. Frankly, this is our sort of a first crisis video conference call. We'll commit to do those as timely and as often as possible. And I guess that's the point I wanted to make is we're here for a member. Our members have responded. Frankly, those times of crisis are opportunities for associations to be there. We need to be under one umbrella. This is where we need one another. And what better place than the associations to find a common place for discussing those issues. And so I will commit to make sure we have follow-up calls and engagement in the future. Alors oui, effectivement, on va s'engager de façon la plus dynamique, continuer à avoir ces engagements-là. C'est un petit peu la première fois qu'on a un appel de vidéoconférence là, pour un état de crise. Et donc, on va continuer de le faire de façon régulière. Je ne peux pas vous garantir pour demain, mais on va le faire de façon la plus régulière possible pour garder les gens bien informés, c'est certain. I want to close on two notes. The first one is an acknowledgement of all the AIA members who continue to support us, to participate, our sponsors. I don't want today to make an outline of all of our membership sponsors, but we definitely believe that, the one who gives us the energy, the resources, the money to do what we do, to retain the firms like Summa that are playing an essential role for us today. So a big acknowledgement again to all the AIA members and the sponsors. We're making these calls open to all because we believe in those times of crisis. This is not all about just the members, it's about the greater community. And so we'll continue to make those information calls available to the greater group of the entire aftermarket family. And I believe that's the right thing to do at this time. And we call upon all of you on the aftermarket to be proactive, to be positive, to do the right things for your customers, for your staff, and also for those first responders are also needed your support, those essential services as well. And those are tough decisions ahead, but we'll do the best to support you every step of the way. So again, I'll leave you with a final thought on the 2 action points. Be engaged with the association, reach out to us via communications@aiacanada.com or at gr@aiacanada.com as well, and stay posted. Alors, encore une fois, avant de vous laisser, un mot de merci, de remerciement à tous nos membres, à nos commanditaires qui ont nous supporter. Nous avons décidé de faire en sorte que ces appels de vidéoconférence sont ouverts à tous. Alors, tous les participants dans l'après-marché sont les bienvenus et on veut effectivement les rejoindre la plus grande communauté possible. Et c'est avec ce support-là qu'on continue à faire de l'engagement. Alors, on appelle à tous via l'adresse courriel jr@aiacanada.com ou communication avec un S à aiacanada.com. Envoyez-nous de l'information. Please communicate with us. We're looking for information about the great essential services you're providing to the community. Those are critical things to do. And we, in return, are committed to keep you engaged, keep you informed, and you could count on AIA moving forward. So again, my last word to all of you is stay safe, stay connected, and stay positive. Thank you all, and have a great day.